Hey guys, this is Jarrell from Test This Tech, and I wanted to compare the G350 with the Ambernic Rg40xxv for M8 Headless, just to kind of compare the form factors, and then also just to share my thoughts on which one would be better when it comes to using M8 Headless. Now, I did do a video on this one, actually on this one as well, but saying how this one so far is my favorite Ambernic device for M8 Headless so far that I've utilized and I've used multiple, as you've seen in the videos. But let me give you guys some comparisons, because there are some differences with how this is set up, okay? So with the Rg40xxv, this is actually with Nully, with the custom firmware Nully loaded onto it. And then for the G350, this actually has the ArcOS. It has a built-in ArcOS with the MAC onto it. Shout out to Rotor Adamus. From my understanding, it is his custom firmware that he kind of put together, and it works great. And this has allowed me for the G350, for when I turn on the device, it boots into M8 Headless and is literally an M8 Headless machine. When it comes to the Rg40xxv, I have to go into the port section to launch the M8C client for me to start doing M8 Headless stuff. So the benefit between the two, I would say, if you want something that if you just turn on the device, start cooking, that is where the G350 has the benefit. But if you prefer, just to first have that custom firmware, if you want to play some games, and then also to go play M8 Headless, that is where this one comes into play from a variety perspective. Now, there's a couple things for this, right? So as you can see there, the brightness is a lot brighter on the Rg40xxv, and the backlight is actually in a timed out mode. So it's really interesting seeing this on the video, because when you're using it, the backlight is responsive, it pulls out, and you're able to really easily see as you're cooking through the M8 Headless on the Rg40xxv. Not so much for this that has ArcOS onto it. For some reason, the backlight, that's really one of the biggest issues, is that the backlight isn't really responsive on the G350. And when you have the custom firmware, or the stock firmware, I should say, for the G350, for the Battle XP, it actually has a pretty bright screen. It's just not really utilized within the M8C client of how this was designed. So I'm not really sure why that is, but when you're booting it up, it is a lot darker. So to mitigate that, this is both on casual DJ as far as for the theme. If you wanted to make this screen brighter within for the G350, you would essentially just need to go to your settings, go to your theme, and I've realized the winter storm or winter score is one of the brighter ones actually for it. The text start to pop out, and you're able to really see more of the screen. Here it is, Winter Storm. Yeah, this one tends to be the best one that I tend to like using, and that way you're able to see a lot more of the screen, and then it kind of uses the backlight. So for some reason, just when it comes to using it, the backlight isn't used for the G350. Now, everything else, right? As far as for form factor in general, this has been really, really neat to use, just because it's a little smaller than the 40xxv. I would say at this point it is pocketable. Of course, you have the two analog sticks here. They're not super high from the body, but it may poke a little bit, but I would say it's pretty much pocketable. When it comes to the 40xxv, it feels very much the same. The textures are pretty much the same. I'm hearing that this is actually made by Ambernic as well. The Battle XP G350, it's actually an Ambernic device. They feel very similar. Incredibly similar. So build is there, but as far as for pocketability, not really it for the 40xxv. Another benefit, if you were to just boot Nully onto the Rg40xxv, this has Bluetooth built in. So on the downside, when you're pairing your Bluetooth to the Rg40xxv, I've found it to be really slow to actually pair up with it. It's going to take a bit, but if you are patient and it hooks up to it, you can use a Bluetooth keyboard to control M8 Headless, which is really cool for the device, but you just have to be patient with it. When it comes to the the G350, not really an option. It's not really a device where you're using a bunch of devices with it. You're literally just using it to cook with the music. So they both have different use cases. This one has a little more few fancier things, right? Another thing with the Nully, you know, there's a few options when it comes to sampling in audio. And that process in general is not the easiest, which is why, you know, if you want the full experience, as I will say, you know, buy an M8 from this guy who designed this and gave the software out to us to utilize with this stuff free of cost to check it out. But if you're just someone who just wants to really use the device, use the software, and you want to not pay as much, that is where the main conversation is here, and kind of the last topic that I'll talk about here for the video. So to put into perspective, the Rg40xxv, this is about $77, $80, give or take, when it comes to the cost of the device. For the G350, this is $50, and if you do some more hunting online, you could probably pick it up for $35, maybe $40. So with, say, the G350, for example, if we were to focus on this one, you can get the device for $50, get the Teensy for about $38. The cable's like $7, unless you have one lying around the house. You can get a M8 Headless really good experience, solid experience, for under $120, you know, and then an M8 is like $700, and that's for Model 1. Model 2 is supposed to have a better battery life as well, so I mean, looking for that used is really hard to find, is even harder to find new, right? So there's a few other components within the conversation. But as far as for the G350, I would say this is probably the one to go with if you want to not pay as much, you just want to use the software. And then also the nice thing about it is that when you're turning it on, it boots right into M8 Headless, and you're using it, you're cooking with it. It's very light. Sometimes I feel more creative on that than using this. No idea why, but I think it's just the fact that I can boot it up and it's built for that. Kind of interesting and just really interesting to use. Now, as far as for the 40xxv, if you plan on doing, say, playing games and using M8 Headless, you know, having that capability as far as it being still, you know, a retro handheld device, the Rg350, the Rg40xxv might be worth that extra money, right? Where you kind of want to do both. You don't want it to be just an M8 Headless device. So that is a factor. But let me know what you guys think. Which one would you choose out of these two? Would you choose a G350 or would you choose the Rg40xxv? Let me know in the comments again. Test this tech. I'll catch you guys next video.